Have you ever stopped and wondered why some moments seem to just drag on forever, while entire years can just vanish in the blink of an eye? It's one of the biggest mysteries of being human, isn't it? We all get the same 24 hours in a day, but somehow we experience them at wildly different speeds. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain on this incredible illusion and explore the strange, elastic world of the clock inside our heads. It really all starts with this paradox that every single one of us has felt. You know the one, that 5-minute wait at the DMV that feels like an hour compared to the last 10 years of your life that feel like they happened last month. This isn't just a feeling, it's a fundamental quirk in how our minds are wired. So how is it possible that our perception of the exact same amount of time can be so incredibly inconsistent? Well, the answer is absolutely fascinating. See, unlike our other senses, you have eyes for sight, ears for hearing. We have no dedicated organ for time. There's no biological stopwatch ticking away in our bodies. Instead, our brain has to literally construct our sense of time from the ground up. It's an active, elaborate illusion built from the raw materials of our attention and our memory. To really understand how our brain pulls this off, we need to look at its two very different systems for keeping track of time. You can think of them as two separate clocks, each one designed for a totally different job. Okay, so these two systems are what scientists call the prospective clock and the retrospective clock. The prospective clock is your experiencing self. It's active when you're looking forward, asking, how much longer is this going to take? The retrospective clock, on the other hand, is your remembering self. It looks back and judges how long an event felt after it's already over. And here's the crazy part. What feels incredibly long while it's happening often feels incredibly short when we remember it. Let's dig into that first one, prospective timing. This is your in-the-moment clock, and its currency, the thing that makes it tick, is attention. The more attention you pay to the passage of time itself, the slower it feels like it's moving. This is exactly why a watched pot never boils. You're literally feeding the clock with your focus. A great way to picture this is with something called the attention gateway model. Imagine your brain is constantly registering these little time pulses. When you're bored, that attention gate is just wide open, and your brain is counting every single pulse. Tick, 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 making time feel agonizingly long. But when you're totally absorbed in something or you're having a blast, that gate is busy with other things, and way fewer pulses get through to be counted. And that right there is why time flies when you're having fun. Now, for that second clock, retrospective timing, this one is completely different. It doesn't run on attention at all. Its currency is memory. When we look back on a period of our lives, we judge how long it was not by the minutes that ticked by, but by the number of new, distinct memories we created during that time. This is what's known as the holiday paradox. Think about it. A whole year of routine. The same drive to work, the same tasks, the same dinner. Your brain, being super efficient, compresses all that down into a single, small memory file. But a 2-week vacation, packed with new sights, new sounds, new experiences, well, that creates dozens and dozens of rich, new memory files. So when you look back, that short, novel trip can feel psychologically way longer than the entire year of sameness. All right, so now that we've got the basics down, let's look at the extremes. What happens when really powerful forces, like life or death fear, or just the simple process of getting older, get their hands on our internal clock? I'm sure you've heard stories about time seeming to slow to a crawl during a car crash. Turns out it's not just a story, it's a very real and very powerful survival mechanism. As this quote gets at, when our life is on the line, our brain actually warps time to give us a better chance of survival. People call this the matrix effect, but what's really happening isn't a change in physics, it's a change in your biology. In that life-threatening moment, your amygdala, the brain's fear center, basically hijacks the whole system. It goes into this high arousal mode, kind of like overclocking a computer, and it starts capturing more frames per second of visual information. Later on, when you play that memory back, all of that extra dense information creates the powerful illusion of slow motion. Now let's talk about the other extreme, something pretty much all of us will experience, the feeling that time speeds up as we get older. Why does a summer feel like an eternity to a kid, while a whole decade can feel like just a moment to an adult? Well, there are 3 main theories that try to explain this. The first theory is actually just simple math. It's often called Janet's law, and it suggests we perceive time relative to the total amount of time we've been alive. Here's how it works. For a 10-year-old,
1 year is a massive 10% of their entire existence. It's a huge, significant chunk of their life so far. But for a 50-year-old, that same year is only 2% of their life. It's just a smaller fraction. So as you get older, each new year can't help but feel subjectively smaller and therefore faster.
The second theory is biological, and it has to do with the actual processing speed of our brains.
So as we age, our neural pathways become way more complex, more sprawling. And paradoxically, this increased complexity actually slows down the speed at which we process signals. So we literally start to capture fewer frames of life per second than we did when we were kids. The effect is kind of like watching a movie that was filmed at a low frame rate. Life itself just seems to speed up.
And the third theory brings us right back to the beginning, back to memory and novelty. It's called the oddball effect.
Your brain is, above all, an efficiency machine. It learns to ignore predictable, routine stuff. It only really wakes up and bothers to record detailed memories for the oddballs, the new, surprising experiences. The thing is, adult life is often defined by what you could call a cessation of firsts. We just don't have as many new experiences. And this leads to a blur of unrecorded time, making our past feel compressed and incredibly short.
Okay, so if routine and a lack of newness are making our lives feel shorter, what can we possibly do about it? Well, the good news is we can actually take back some control. We can't stop the clock on the wall, but we can absolutely expand our psychological time.
So how do we fight back? First, actively seek out new things. Break your routines, even in tiny ways, just to force your brain to create new memory files. Second, practice mindfulness. By really paying attention to the present, you make the memories you're encoding richer and more distinct. Third, try journaling. It creates external signposts that stop the days and weeks from just bleeding into one another. And finally, never stop embracing firsts. Learning a new skill or visiting a new place mimics that expansive, curious state of a child's brain, and it really can stretch your perception of time. Ultimately, it all boils down to this really powerful idea. The speed of your life isn't about the calendar. It has nothing to do with the clock. It's about the density of your attention. The richness of your experience and how long it feels is a direct result of how much you choose to pay attention.
Physical time is not mind time. A life filled with routine is going to feel psychologically short no matter how many years are on the calendar. But a life filled with attention, with novelty, with depth, that life will feel psychologically long and full.
What this all means is that the power is actually in your hands. You're not just a passive passenger watching time fly by. You are the architect of your own duration. You get to decide how long your life truly feels. So the only question left is, what are you going to build?